All right, YouTube, are we live or no? Are we live or no? Yep, it says we're live. Alrighty then, let's get started. So, as usual, happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, or enjoyed your weekend. The weekend is over. But yeah, great to be back with Takeaways with Tay. The whole purpose of me doing this is essentially because I love reading books and I love sharing what I've learned when reading. So hence sharing my takeaways. So the whole purpose is just sharing, my insights from reading, and hopefully with the intention that you all get something out of it, get some inspiration, get some insight, and different outlooks on different things. Take what you want, leave what you don't. And yeah. So today's book, actually on the floor. Today's book is The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. And I wanted to do something different this week as far as like the books that I've been sharing my takeaways. And in particular, this week's book is all about poetry. So, in the past, I've done a lot of nonfiction, things on like financial literacy, communication, relationships, what else? All those different things, learning styles, blah, blah, blah. So this week in particular, I wanted to focus on something a little different, but still in the same concept of like self-development, philosophy, and things like that. So we're diving into poetry. And I really, really love Kahlil Gibran. He is, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know him, he's a Lebanese American writer, poet, and artist. And the reason why I love him so much is because I feel like I relate to his philosophy about a lot of different things. So if anyone who is familiar with his work, he's a very deep, profound thinker is the best way that I can describe him right now. He, like, when reading this book in particular, there was a lot of different profound insights that he gives, and as we'll touch into today. I'm only going to touch on 3 specific topics today, but the book covers a lot of different life topics. And so today, the 3 topics that I'm going to cover are going to be love, marriage, and children. And that's particularly because those are the first 3 chapters of the book, like not necessarily like something that I did by design. But yeah, love, marriage, and children. And essentially, this one will go a little different. So I'll share what my takeaway was for each chapter, and then in terms of love, marriage, and children, and then kind of dive into like specifics that way. So yeah, like I said, this is meant to be insightful, inspirational at the least. And if you gain something from it, please like, share, comment, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. My first takeaway from reading the first chapter, which was about love, is that love will crown and crucify you. And this is directly quoted. It's kind of paraphrased from the book, but I really like this because I've talked about this before, but I think in relationships we look for the romantic side of love, and we look for all the pleasures of love and what love can give us, but we shy away when it comes to dealing with all the hardships that is love brings. And it's like trying to have your cake, wanting your cake and eating it too, and like just it's love doesn't work that way. And also I wanted to bring it into like relevancy to like today's world, because we live in the age of technology. So which, has its pros and cons in terms of relationships, love, dating, etc. But some of the ways that technology has transformed or kind of changed the way that we see love, or that we foster love. So for example, like dating apps, anyone could go on a dating app and put all their highlights of what they look like, what they've done in their lives, what their accomplishments were, what their philosophy is, and essentially they can create this highlight reel, if you will, and a profile where it's like, okay, they put it out there into the world, and then someone can pick, if this person aligns with whatever it is that they think that they're looking for. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that dating apps have tremendous potential to bring two people together. However, I think there's a certain amount of discernment that we have to have when we are on dating apps and when we are just online in general and looking for potential prospects, because somebody can essentially be a complete lie of what it is that they're presenting, which has happened and continues to happen. And that leads to the next thing of, okay, so like the dating app can be the start, but it's your responsibility to really vet this person out and see if they are who they say they are. If they say that they're this, if they say that they've done blah, 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 or that they're this type of person, just really testing that out, testing the waters, and making sure that that person is that person, so that you don't end up in a situation where you're blindsided and now you're very invested in a relationship that can be very possibly toxic or not good for your health at all. So that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind about when we're dating and just love in the age of technology. But also, with that, I think the age of technology has made love, if we use the tools of technology right, I feel like it's made love a little bit more possible, if that makes sense. And I say that because there's so many apps. There's so many apps to get to learn yourself, journaling apps, meditation apps, apps of anything you can think of, there's an app. And that goes with love and relationships. So it's like, if you want to have different ways to bond with your partner, you can do that through an app. If you want to share your feelings with your partner, you're tracking your feelings, you can do that with an app. If you are a woman and you have like a menstrual cycle, well, every woman has a menstrual cycle, and you want to share, this cycle with your partner so that they know where you are in certain times of the month, you can do that, and that can bring you and your partner closer. So there's so many different things that technology brings to the table when it comes to dating and love. And in this age, we have to be the masters of the technology and the masters of whatever it is that we're trying to create. And we have to really just be intentional about it. Be extremely intentional, determined, and use technology to our advantage. Use it to our advantage. Don't be superficial, and look at people for what they can do for you, what they may look like, what assets they can bring that, you're not reciprocating. Because love is, I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but love is not necessary. When you're loving in its purest form, you're giving without the intention or the expectation that something is going to be given back to you. So that's why love will crown and crucify you, because it's going to bring out the best in you, but it is also going to reveal the worst in you. And it's going to show you how you can be better, do better, and all those things. Now, there's been this question of how do you cope with and learn from unfulfilled romantic aspirations? So, we live in a time where a lot of people have experienced heartbreak, if you will, or things that has happened or occurred where they feel like a romantic situation is unfulfilled. It didn't go the way that they anticipated it to go. And so the question is, how do you cope? I can't answer it for someone else, but I say the best way to cope, at least for me, has been to sit. You have to sit with yourself. You have to dive into what you like and focus on that. Um, but also this thing I talked about this too is just acceptance, and accepting things that you can't change, and learning how to move on, essentially, which is a lot harder or a lot easier said than done. And different people cope in different ways. So I think definitely not being judgmental to someone who is going through a hard time with, an unfulfilled romantic aspiration. But if you know someone who is, just being that listening ear and just holding space for somebody can sometimes mean a lot. So second takeaway from reading this book here, The Prophet, is and to kind of rewind, so the whole title, The Prophet, comes from the fact that there's this guy, he lives in his land, and this is all like kind of fictitious. The poems are real, but the story is kind of fictitious. And so the guy lives in his land, he's getting ready to go off, and before he leaves, like, all the people in the town are wanting his insights because he's known for being very wise. So before he leaves, all the people in this town are like wanting to know his take on certain things of life. So the first chapter is love, and he gives his take on love, and he basically says that love will crown and crucify you. And then the next chapter, they ask him what's his take on marriage, and he gives them his take on marriage. And my takeaway from the second part, which is marriage, is that it says, let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. So I took that as marriage it's a commitment to do life with someone, right? But it doesn't mean that you now become that person and that person becomes you, and you guys live underneath each other's shadows, and everything is now like, it's not like, think of it as you have your world, they have their world. Both of you all's world exists before you come together. Then when you come together, a lot of times marriage is like you come together and everything just blends. But it's like, no, we come together and we complement each other's worlds. So I respect your world, you respect my world, and we live in a harmony that is conducive to the growth of both of those worlds. So I'm not asking for you to stop your world, and you're not asking for me to stop my world. That's essentially what I got from reading this part of the book where it talks about marriage, is that, in order for it to be successful, you have to give the person space to be them. They were an individual before you guys came together. They will be an individual when they die. And you have to give them the space to still be an individual, but also exist in a relationship. And, I've never been married before, so I have no idea what the challenges of marriage are. I can only imagine. But I did look up some statistics of marriage, specifically in the United States, and the numbers are very astounding. Let's just start with first one. It says 39% of marriages end in divorce. In 2018, the U.S. marriage rate hit an all-time low of 6.5 marriages per 1,000 people. So this is in 2018. Now, in 2000, that number was 8.2. So that number drops. So within 18 years, that number drops by 2.3%. Or not 2.3%, 2.3. But keep in mind, in 1946, it says that 16.4 let's see. Yeah, there were 16.4 marriages per 1,000 people in 1946. So essentially, as society is evolving, marriages are declining. And that's something to think about. It's like, well, why are marriages declining? What is the cause for all these divorces? And there's also been an increase in cohabitation. So 18 million adults in the U.S. are cohabiting. And this is something I've learned just from talking from people and getting their insight onto like their living situation. Not like I'm being nosy or anything, but a lot of people just share things. So, they've mentioned being in a relationship with someone and, not necessarily being married, but also, let's say the relationship didn't work out, but they live together. Now they're just cohabiting like this space. And that's very common. It's very, very common, which is interesting. But let's even get a little bit more specific, because that's America. But let's talk about the Black community in particular. So the Black community has the lowest marriage rate amongst all ethnic groups. We also experience higher divorce rates, which is 42% of Black women and 36% of Black men have been divorced. Yes, you heard those numbers right. Almost half of Black women that exist in the United States have experienced a divorce. And more than 1/3 of the Black men that have been married in the United States have experienced a divorce. This is not, I don't know what you guys think when you hear this, but when I hear it, it's like, whoa. There's a lot of questions, a lot of whys, what's going on. And there's so many other factors that play into why marriages are not successful, especially Black marriages. But we could argue it's the dynamics of the relationship. We can argue the economic disparities, incarceration rates. We could argue all those different things. But there's no question that there's a problem. So, also, let's see here. There was another statistic that I found very disturbing. So there's an increase in single parent households, specifically in the Black community. So 64% of Black children live with a single parent, compared to 24% of white children and 42% of Hispanic children. So more than half of Black children live with one parent. More than half. We're literally almost at 2/3 of the population of Black children in America that live in a single parent household. White American children is about 24%, and like I said, Hispanic is 42%. Now those numbers are still not the greatest. Like Hispanic being 42, that's almost half, and 24% of white, that's almost, it's not 1/3, but it could very well be approaching it, depending on the rate of what's increasing. But 64% of Black is disturbing. So yeah, like I said, there's like all different types of factors, economic disparities, incarceration rates, that disproportionately affect the Black community. And when the book is talking about marriage and, what helps a marriage work, in poetic terms that Kahlil Gibran expresses, he's essentially saying that we have to let each other be individuals. Although we're together, although we are coming together and we have this commitment to do life with one another, we are not each other. Like, I'm not you and you're not me. And at the end of the day, like, I should still have my values and my goals and what makes me happy. I should still do those things, and you should also still do the things that make you happy and bring you joy. And like, our lives don't have to, our worlds don't have to stop just because we come together. We can still be individuals. So that's what I got from it, and I like that, because I think sometimes there's like, we put all these stipulations on marriage and these expectations of, what does our role look like now, and what does do we have to have a single or have a joint bank account, and all these different decisions. Now, all those decisions you can make for yourself and have at it, but that's what I got. And then the last takeaway here, so the people in the book are asking this prophet that's getting ready to leave, they ask him about children and what's his take on children. And I'm going to quote this directly from the book, because I don't think I could have said it any better. It says, "Children, you are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves the bow that is stable. So for anyone who was struggling to grasp what was said there, essentially Kahlil Gibran is stating that parents are like a bow. So let's think of like a bow and an arrow. Parents are like a bow. Your child is the arrow, and this archer, this archer who is indivisible from you and your child, he or she is essentially the one that is going to shoot the bow into the world, right? And it talks about how the archer, like as the bow, like as you, the parent, as the bow, you have to be able to bend. Like the ability to bend is your ability to bend is going to benefit how far the arrow can go. And so I took that as, I like to speak, or I like when things are speaking very symbolic, because for me it was like, as a parent, right? I'm not a parent, but people who are parents, their ability to bend with life, like kind of like a palm tree when the winds are super strong, your ability to kind of just go with the wind, sway and not break, and be that stability for that arrow to go as far as it possibly can, right? And I love how the author says that, you know, yes, the archer loves the arrow that can go far, but it also loves the bow that is stable. And so I feel like, you know, the role of a parent is to be as stable, to provide a stable environment as they possibly can, so that this child can go into the world and essentially live their purpose, whatever it was, whatever they were created for, whatever intention God had for them when God created them and brought them into this world. In order for them to carry that out, they need that stability to do that. And a lot of children, unfortunately, come from households, especially when we're talking about African American children, come from households that don't necessarily provide that stability. So, you know, those children fall by the wayside and they're wasted. There's a lot of wasted potential. There's a lot of untimely deaths. There's a lot of things that happen, a lot of consequences of parents who have essentially failed their child. Now, I know that I don't think parents intentionally do that. I think it just comes with, you know, life and a lot of different, being in a state of survival, not really knowing or valuing parenthood, and not really seeing a child as a gift, more so seeing the child as a burden and as something that you have to do because you brought into this world, so now you're obligated to it. But I have some more statistics here for when it comes to, you know, parenting. And these are a little bit more astounding too. It says 30% of Black children live in poverty, which is more than double the national average of 14.4%. So Black children, almost about a third of Black children live in poverty, which, like I said, is double more than the national average of 14.4. That's disturbing. 64% live with a single parent, and then 1 in 9 Black children have a parent who has been incarcerated. So all of those things affect a child's ability to go out into the world and be whatever it is that they were created to be. And the book, to me, essentially, it paints the role of a parent. It's like, as a parent, yes, you created this child, but you do not own this child. This child is not yours, if that makes sense. It's weird. Like, the child looks like you, but the child isn't you. The child is not here to fulfill your dreams. They're not here to be a spitting image of your personality. They are here to be an individual, and each child is a unique individual. And teaching has taught me this a lot. Just being in a classroom and learning the different learning needs of different students, it's like every student is special. Every student has tendencies that other students don't. And learning those, helping bring out the best in that child so that that child can learn themselves and then take that information and go into the world and activate their will, whatever their will is, whatever it is that they want in life, being able to activate that through communication, discipline, guidance that they've gotten from their parents, all those different things. And it all depends on, it really all depends on how stable the bow is, which is the parent, how stable the parents are. And, you do have those exceptions of children who they may have grown up in like the worst of the worst situation. Like you could take like LeBron, for example. We all know the story, mother, drug addict, father, etc. Like all these different common black story. But he took his gift, basketball, focused on that, and he was able to make a name for himself and break those generational bondages and holds on his family, and essentially become something of himself. And now he's a role model for other black and brown children in the world. But LeBron James is one out of millions of African American men in the world. So yes, LeBron James is an exception, but that's not always the case. When you have 30% of black children living in poverty, every single last one of them aren't going to be able to be LeBron James. Let's be realistic. There's a lot of different things that have to happen and different, almost like luck. I don't want to say that LeBron James, his story is luck, because it's not. But everyone, those 30% of black children that are living in poverty, they might never get the opportunities that LeBron James received, or they might never get out of poverty. They were born in poverty and they might never ever see what life looks like outside of that. So that's something to keep in mind. Children need stability, and they are individuals that are unique. And as a parent, you have to honor their uniqueness, learn from their uniqueness, respect their uniqueness. Just because they're smaller than you and they may not know as much as you, they are still individuals, and you have to respect them as such. So those are the biggest takeaways I got from reading the first 3 chapters of The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. And I kind of put it in like layman terms, made it very practical, but the book is very profound and deep. So like as you're reading it, a lot of it is very symbolic. You might have to read it again, because like as you can see here, he's comparing bows and arrows to parenting and children, and which I appreciate that type of language. So if you also appreciate that type of language, you would probably like the book. It's a fairly short read. It's not a lot of pages at all by any means. And yeah, I'm going to share the next 3 chapters next week, which are going to focus on, So the next 3, we're going to focus on giving, eating and drinking, and work. So tune in. Make sure you tune in next week to get some insights on that. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, share. And yeah, thanks for tuning in with Takeaways with Tay. We'll be back at it next week. Y'all, happy Sunday. And enjoy this week. Get ready for the week. Do your best. And if you've taken anything from this, love. Take love. Love is the answer for everything. All right, y'all. Be great.